Olá, muito bom dia e as mais
welcome to all, a warm welcome to all to this virtual meeting of the Sustainable School Feeding Network, Progress and Commitments in Latin America and the Caribbean. My name is Najila Velosa. I will moderate this panel I called as a coordinator of the project for the consolidation of the school feeding programs by FAO. We are transmitting this virtual event using the YouTube of FAO. It is important for you to know that we're using simultaneous translation for Portuguese, English, and Spanish. So if you want to listen to English, you have to choose the channel using the globe icon. This is an event that is organized in partnership with ABC and the FNDE with the support of the United Nations FAO. It is important to highlight that the actions developed by the Brazilian government since 2009 are aimed to strengthen this institutional skills and capabilities of the different institutions of the regions. This cooperation reflects the commitments of Brazil for the protection, promotion, and guarantee of rights, like rights to proper food, to promoting family holding farming. Since 2016, the Brazilian government has put into place 5 networks. Among these networks, we have the Sustainable School Feeding Network that has been implemented through FAO and ABC. It consolidates the commitments of the Brazilian government to supply good quality food in schools and sustainable food systems in the countries of the regions. Since 2018, many actions have been launched to develop this network of dialogue among the countries, and these activities were put into place within the Raes network, which you will see in the video. So we had the participation of various countries, the countries that are taking part in this event today on the Zoom platform. And so for this event, we have honorable personalities to give all the more prestige to the work that has been developed. So this is a way to say that all of you are very welcome to this event. Before starting the different panels, I will show a little video that was prepared by ABC and FAN to show a little bit what the network has done over the last years.
Cada día queda más claro que los programas de alimentación escolar son políticas clave para la promoción de sistemas alimentarios saludables y el alcance de las metas globales de desarrollo sostenible.
Por eso, en el año 2018, el gobierno de Brasil impulsó la Red de Alimentación Escolar Sostenible, lanzada en un evento internacional de la FAO realizado en Argentina.
La Raes es el resultado de los esfuerzos de la cooperación internacional Brasil-FAO para el tema de la alimentación escolar, ejecutada desde el año 2009 por la Agencia Brasileña de Cooperación ABC, el Fondo Nacional de Desarrollo de la Educación, FNDE, y la Organización de las Naciones Unidas para la Alimentación y la Agricultura, FAO, por medio del proyecto Consolidación de Programas de Alimentación Escolar en América Latina y el Caribe.
Desde el año 2018, la Raes ha sido una herramienta de cooperación creada como respuesta del gobierno de Brasil al compromiso global de apoyar a los países en el alcance de los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, ODS, especialmente en la reducción de la pobreza, la eliminación del hambre, la mejoría de la calidad de la salud y de la educación.
El objetivo de la Raes es promover de manera colectiva y conjunta, dialogada y participativa, la mejoría de la calidad de la alimentación escolar en los países miembros en la lógica del acceso y de la garantía del derecho humano a la alimentación adecuada.
La Raes se propone a apoyar a los países en
fortalecer y consolidar las políticas de alimentación escolar de los países,
apoyar a la estructuración de los programas de alimentación escolar,
desarrollar las capacidades,
dialogar e intercambiar experiencias,
construir conocimiento de manera colectiva,
difundir informaciones y materiales.
Para garantizar estos avances, desde el año 2018, la RAE se ha comprometido a promover
desarrollo de capacidades,
intercambio de conocimientos y experiencias por medio de
visitas técnicas,
diálogos entre países.
Por medio de estas actividades, la Raes ha alcanzado a múltiples actores como gestores, administradores, técnicos, nutricionistas, docentes, coordinadores locales de educación, entre otros profesionales.
Trabajar y discutir la alimentación escolar en sus distintos componentes gana aún más importancia frente al escenario de pandemia que aumentó la inseguridad alimentaria en el mundo.
El fomento de una red de actores responsables por los programas de alimentación escolar significa la coalición de esfuerzos que deberá impactar en
aumento de la cobertura de estudiantes,
promoción de una dieta más saludable con frutas y verduras,
desarrollo rural a partir de las compras de productos a la agricultura familiar local.
La perspectiva es generar una cultura de aprendizaje e intercambio que sea capaz de nutrir los programas de alimentación escolar y promover un mejor futuro para esta y las próximas generaciones.
Reiterando los principios de la cooperación internacional.
El gobierno de Brasil invita a los países a formar parte y a fortalecer la Raes con el objetivo de aprender, enseñar y compartir informaciones sobre los programas de alimentación escolar.
Únete a nosotros en esta importante iniciativa.
Excelente. Para então fazermos a abertura oficial desse evento,
We're officially opening the virtual meeting with Mr. Ambassador Rui Pereira, Director of the Brazilian Cooperation Agency. You're very welcome, Mr. Rui Pereira. You may have the floor.
Muito obrigado,
Thank you,
Nádia
Nádia Veloso,
moderadora
who is
e
our
grande
moderator
entusiasta da rede.
and very enthusiastic about the network, as you all know. I'd like to welcome
Bom dia,
all of
boa
you
tarde.
and say good afternoon, good morning to all who are accompanying us, attending this meeting. I'd like to say that I am truly delighted to take part in the opening session of this virtual meeting, representing the ABC, Brazilian Cooperation Agency, and all those who were willing to take part in this important event for the Sustainable School Feeding Network that will work on the progress and commitments in Latin America and the Caribbean. As you know, the network was formed under the cooperation project Consolidation of School Feeding Programs in Latin America and the Caribbean, which is carried out by the Brazil FAO International Cooperation Program. I'd like to pay my regards to the members of this opening panel and also longtime partners in our cooperation, Mr. Garrigam Amarante Pinto, Director of Educational Actions at the National Education Development Fund, known as FNDE, under the Ministry of Education of Brazil, to the FAO representative in Brazil, Mr. Rafael Zavala, and a partner and friend of many years in this technical cooperation that we develop in the region with Brazil, especially on this topic of school feeding. I'd like to also salute the representation of Latin American countries in the person of Her Excellency, the Minister of Education of El Salvador, Ms. Carla Anania, and salute all the authorities and citizens and members and participants of the Caribbean and Latin America who are attending this meeting through the Zoom and YouTube platforms of FAO. I would also like to send a very warm and special greeting to all representatives of the country and friends taking part in the RAES network, and to all diplomatic representations from Brazil in the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean who are also attending this meeting today. I'd like also to salute the ambassador of San Salvador,
grande relevo a presença também
makes this event all the more relevant, and also Carla Anania and the ambassador of Costa Rica also.
A Agência Brasileira de Cooperação do
As you
Ministério
know,
das Relações Exteriores
as a central body of the Brazilian system of international cooperation, the work of the Brazilian Cooperation Agency under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil focuses on the development of skills and capacities and the sharing of knowledge. The purpose being that each partner country achieve local autonomy in designing and implementing appropriate solutions that are adapted to the challenges they face in their respective development processes.
Esse é o centro
This is
do propósito
the heart of what we propose to do and is at the heart of the mission of the ABC. Within this framework, the Brazil-FAO partnership through trilateral South-South cooperation is now over 12 years old. I remember that in November 2018, after taking on the direction, the management of ABC, during the second regular session of the WFP Executive Board, I signed with Professor José Graziana, who was then Director General of FAO, the letter of intent by which the Brazil-FAO strategic partnership was extended for another 10 years. The topic of school meals in this letter of intent has always been one entailing structuring and challenge facing. And we are very proud to work in this partnership together with FAO. This certainly has been all the more the case over the last 2 years due to the pandemic, by proving that it represents a concrete alternative to fight hunger and poverty while promoting economic development and social inclusion. In this partnership, the Brazilian government has always offered the valuable and continuous contribution of the FNDE, who plays the role of the cooperating and financing institution in the initiatives of Brazil with FAO in the regional context of trilateral South-South cooperation. And so for ABC, the topic proposed for today's virtual meeting on the progress and commitments in the school feeding programs of Latin America and the Caribbean through the RAES network is of great importance. This dynamic network has indeed become a privileged space for sharing experiences and developing training processes. Since its launch in Buenos Aires in 2018, starting with the participation of 17 countries of the region.
A partir daquele início,
Other countries
se
have
juntaram
joined the network along the way, and others have shown interest in participating in this great regional movement of exchanges on school meal systems.
passos firmes e concretos que a Raes tem dado ao longo desses
The
4 anos.
network has taken firm and concrete steps over these almost 4 years and has thereby driven the Brazil-FAO partnership to commit yet all the more to this important regional initiative in favor of school feeding, while consolidating itself as a model of exchanging for others interested countries.
Desejamos concretizar
And so, our wish is to turn this commitment official in the very near future by signing a joint statement which we have already prepared and shared for consideration by all countries, and which is based on the right to education and the right to proper and healthy food. There will come a time very soon where we'll be in condition to organize a specific event for the signing of this collective commitment in Latin America and the Caribbean on the development and to give all the more leverage and impulse to school feeding programs in the region, which is a channels all the development in our countries. In the name of the Brazilian South-South cooperation, I trust that this morning will result in another rich and fruitful exchange of knowledge for the mutual benefit of all partners. May the launch of the RAES platform and the video of this emblematic work that we've just watched constitute significant tools to further support the consolidation of school feeding programs in our region. And this, I hope that this joint effort contributes to recover all the activities in all the different national scenarios after the pandemic and for the benefit of the more vulnerable in our societies. I'd like to highlight that in this event today, this is the first opportunity we have to show and to pronounce words like these and to recover the activities to recover all the national trajectories and work that has been done in the different countries over the pandemic and also in the post-pandemic area. We can see that the region is now emerging from a disaster that we were afflicted with all over the world, with this structuring impacts because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's important to always repeat that the events are very crucial, especially in the post-pandemic. I thank you all very much. I'd like to thank mostly Mrs. Carla Hanania, who your presence is an honor for us today, Minister of Education of El Salvador. I thank you all very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Rui Pereira, for your important remarks on the recovery in the post-pandemic period. We are now showing a new landmark in the history of the work that has been developed. And now we'll pass the floor to Mr. Garrigam Amarante, the Director of Educational Actions at the FNDE under the Ministry of Education of Brazil, who has worked very hard at the recovery and the work. Thank you, Najila. In the name of the Ministry of Education, Mr. Ribeiro and Marcelo Ponte, I'd like to thank FAO, ABC, and all the countries present here. I am very happy to salute all of you in this very important event on the exchange of food security and nutritional security. I'd like to salute Carla Hanania, Minister of Education of El Salvador, Mr. Ambassador Rui Pereira, Director of the ABC, Mr. Rafael Zavala, Representative of FAO in Brazil, my coordinator, Karine Santos, General Coordinator of the program on school feeding program in Brazil, Miss Cecilia Malaguti, in charge of the Trilateral South-South Cooperation, Paul Beraldo, communicator of the development for this project at FAO, and Israel Rios, the senior of the policies. So we will be talking about the program that we call the PNAE that offers free and diverse meals that attend specific nutritional needs according to the different contexts of the regions of Brazil to fight hunger and malnutrition, and to talk more with the families about what can be done to improve health and food education. Our role is to raise awareness and strengthen the capabilities and skills of all the players along the way in schools and also at the different levels of the state and federal, state and municipal levels. So to take part in this landmark virtual meeting of the Sustainable School Feeding Network shows how important the work we've developed is, and the importance of the partnership with the countries of the Latin America and the Caribbean who are here today. Along this last decade, thanks to the help of ABC and the support of FAO, working through South-South cooperation, we have strengthened our work in the feeding program in Brazil and abroad through the implementation of the programs in countries that face similar challenges as we do in Brazil. We work through South-South trilateral cooperation in these countries, and the purpose of this partnership is to make the programs more autonomous financially, so as to ensure their sustainability. We have old and new challenges in the face of hunger and malnutrition. And so organizing international organization with the government and PABC and FNDE is all the more important, as Mr. Rui Pereira said, and the Minister of Education, Mr. Ribeiro, says that during the pandemic, those who were in the first front were the doctors and nurses, and now in the post-pandemic era, it will be the teachers and all the players involved in the feeding network. I'd like to salute everyone and thank everyone for that matter.
Obrigado, Nádia.
Thank you, Nadia. Nadia.
Ela travou, a Nádia travou, eu acho.
I believe there has been a problem with the connection, Nadia Veloso's connection. So we'll pass the word to the Honorable Minister of Education of El Salvador, Ms. Carla Anania.
Considerando que eu já voltei e a ministra está... Ministra, por gentileza.
Ahora. Minister, I pass the floor to you.
Un atento saludo al excelentísimo embajador y director de
Greetings to the ambassador and director of the Brazilian Cooperation Agency, ABC. Also greetings to the Minister of Education of Brazil, my dear colleague. In his representation, also Mr. Apananto Pinto, Mrs. Secretary of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and the representative of the UN organization FAO, Mr. Rafael Zavala, also our dear friend and moderator. It's a pleasure to see you again, Najla, through this session. I would like to begin by saying thank you for the invitation to be part of this very important forum. It is an honor for me to really be able to address all of you in order to talk about a topic which is so key for a region in which UNESCO and UNICEF have determined that we have 117 million children in school age at this moment. Just think about this. And out of the 117 million children, 6.5 are not attending school. And 15.6 million children are attending barely attending school, failing usually because of inequality. We all know that inequality also has to do with nutrition, and it has to do with access to healthy and sufficient food by the families of these children. On the other hand, the Latin American and Caribbean region have been a pioneer, and it is something we have to acknowledge because we have recognized and adopted the rights of children within their internal and legal frameworks. We have adjusted to the Convention on the Rights of Children, and it was developed generalized manner immediately after it was approved by the General Assembly of the UN in November 1989. It was from that moment that the region started a process that had never been seen before, that was led especially by Brazil, above all, with the statutes on the growth of children and adolescents, placing themselves with a vision regarding childhood that was based on a new paradigm, what the experts are calling the doctrine of the irregular situation to the doctrine of universal protection. 100% of the legislations of our countries have adopted the convention, and they have adjusted their legislations accordingly. In Article 3, the convention establishes that the member states acknowledge the principle of the higher interest of the child in all of their actions. Article number 6 recognizes the intrinsic right to life and to the full potential, which also depends on the access to healthy and sufficient food. Article 24 guarantees the right to the highest enjoyment of their health, fighting illness and malnutrition, guaranteeing that every sector in society, especially that parents, are aware of the basic principles of health and of how to properly feed their children. And finally, Article 27, which talks about the right to life. How are we going to exercise our right to life? How are children going to exercise their rights if their nutrition is at stake, if their access to food is somehow compromised? Also, Latin America and the Caribbean continue to be one of the regions with the most inequality in the world. In the development of human report, in the report of human development, the UNDP reports that the 10% of the population which is richest concentrates the income of 30% overall, and 40%, the poorest 40%, accounts for less than everyone else, 13% of the income or wealth in 2019. And this is very important because this is a study that had never been done before, and it shows us how actually children leave malnutrition. ICLAC and UNICEF developed a study to measure multidimensional aspects of child poverty. This is something that had never been seen before. This is a new concept which shows that children leave poverty differently than adults, as more specifically, smaller, younger children that rely on adults. Poverty for children and adolescents is something that accumulates over time, and it may have effects that are long-lasting. For instance, sometimes it's impossible to overcome the negative effects of malnutrition or to recover from a certain disability that could have been prevented, to catch up with years of neglect and lagging that hindered their development. And as adults, how do we even recover our full development, our physical development? So, dear friends, there is consensus in the region regarding the importance and the impact that school feeding has over the lives of children as an instrument to guarantee the exercise of their human rights, as it was mentioned earlier. And in the light of the reality of our region, the programs of school feeding become a key fundamental factor to overcome food insecurity and malnutrition and to guarantee the exercise of this right, which is in all of our legislations. And at the same time, the programs of school feedings become a social network of protection for children. They also favor the supply and they improve the situation of family farmers that become suppliers of healthy foods that are grown locally. Now, after the pandemic of 2019, we have an even greater challenge because the health crisis has affected, above all, to the poorest families by further restricting access to healthy nutrition, to healthy foods. And this is where the cooperation between Brazil and the network of school feeding, Raes, becomes a strategic partner. In order to consolidate the quality of these school feeding programs in Latin America and the Caribbean, Raes is an experienced counterparty in the area of international cooperation and gives legitimacy to the promotion of the debate on this issue. It has become a facilitator, Raes, to exchange experiences as it is happening in this very instance, and also for the consolidation of different school feeding programs in each of the countries. In terms of education, we have had to move from in-person education to online or virtual education, which has caused a major impact over children. In the case of El Salvador, we are giving an innovative response with large-scale measures that we are promoting to fight hunger and to fight against lack of access to food because of COVID. Social distancing imposed by COVID took us to closing over 5,000 educational centers in our country. And the first thing we did was to restructure our school feeding program so that it was adapted to the new circumstances that the students and their families are going through. We have invested more or less $37.1 million, and with that we've been able to distribute over 2 million packages of food, benefiting families and students who are part of the poverty population with a severe, high, moderate classification, who are late in their size and in their nutrition. So what we did was to focus our work. We reinvented our organization, we refocused our work, and we sent foods no longer prepared as it was done before the pandemic, but pre-packaged for the families. The students in El Salvador, in spite of the pandemic, they've not stopped receiving their food. We have turned family or school orchards into family orchards because children are no longer at school. The family orchards and also community orchards are a measure to overcome the restrictions that we are talking about. And for that, we have delivered over 50,000 agricultural kits. We have been able to inspire and empower the teachers, the family members, for them to grow their own vegetables, training over 2,000 teachers for them to accompany along the process. A couple of months ago, we introduced to the country a strategy for sustainable, healthy school feeding program, with which we are going to continue on throughout the life cycle of the students in all the grades. We want the students of the public sector to have 200 days at least of attention of school feeding. Our bet is to make an impact over their physical development, their health, their cognitive potential, guaranteeing that their rights are fulfilled. For that, in the short term, with the strategy for school feeding, we are going to guarantee the permanent delivery of healthy snacks, all the supplies for the school centers, and we are going to improve, or we hope to improve that way, the family economies.
¿Está listo? un anteproyecto de ley de alimentación escolar que está por ser
The bill
aprobado.
is ready and is to be approved in the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador, and it's being formulated by a multidisciplinary team from different ministries. We are having the participation of several institutions and private sector organizations. I would like to highlight the support of FAO that is invaluable in the office of El Salvador, in San Salvador. So I would like to thank your attention, and El Salvador deeply shares what has been stated in the joint declaration that's going to be made today. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigada, senhora ministra, excelentíssima senhora ministra Carla Anania, de Educação, Ciência e Tecnologia de El Salvador, também nossa amiga dessa cooperação, incansável apoiadora, que nos fala representando os países com os quais o Brasil tem trabalhado no decorrer desses últimos 12 anos, tanto da América Latina quanto do Caribe. E é muito importante comentar, ministra, que esse projeto de cooperação técnica Brasil-FAO para América Latina e Caribe foi inaugurado em novembro de 2009 no seu país. Por isso, é muito simbólica a sua presença aqui hoje, e por isso nós agradecemos imensamente por todo o carinho, por todo o apoio, e porque sua presença aqui e todo o apoio que El Salvador, toda a resposta que El Salvador tem dado, significa muito para a cooperação internacional Brasil-FAO. Muitíssimo obrigada, ministra. E para finalizar a abertura, nós vamos ter também outro querido apoiador, incansável no seu trabalho, na sua tarefa, que é o representante da FAO no Brasil, senhor Rafael Zavala. Por favor, senhor Rafael.
Obrigado, Najla. Buen día a todas y todos. Quiero mandar...
Good morning, everyone. I would like to send warm greetings from the General Director of FAO and from the regional representative for Latin America and the Caribbean from FAO, who both are committed with a school feeding network. Greetings to Mr. Ambassador Rebreda, my dear friend, Director of ABC. Also, I'd like to send some greetings to the Director of the Development Fund of Education in Brazil, Garigana Maranta Pinto, and of course, greetings to, I didn't have the pleasure of meeting her, but what a brilliant message, to the excellent Minister Carla Anania. I'd like to greet and highlight the role of three wonderful Brazilian women behind this process. Cecilia Malaguchi from ABC, Marina Santos from the National Fund for the Development of Education, and Najla Veloso from FAO. Together with their respective teams, they are a virtuous circle, including the objectives of cooperation in food feeding networks for all of Latin America and the Caribbean. So I would like to acknowledge them, and I would like to invite them to continue forming this virtuous triangle or trifecta. As Nasla was saying, I'm a great fan of the topics of school feeding, and also a super fan of Raes. So, and also to wish you great success to this network of school feeding network, I would like to highlight three things. First, apart from the topic of school feeding, I am so passionate about the farming extensionism. Extensionism is an educational process, and here in Latin America and the Caribbean, one of the parents of extensionism and the of this was Paulo Freire, a Brazilian. Paulo Freire also acknowledged the importance of good feeding in the educational process of children in schools. Another worthy Brazilian in the fight against hunger and in the school feeding processes has been Josué de Castro, who had a great influence in FAO and in the fight against hunger. And this means that this process, supported by the Brazilian government, apart from being very pertinent in the post-pandemic context, with COVID-19, as Rui Pereira said, apart from being very timely, should also be very symbolic. So that's a point I would like to comment related to extensionism. And we say that apart from factors such as financing and inclusive participation, we have three factors of success: the amount, the coverage, that is, the quality, efficiency of the processes, and the continuity and the permanence. So the same happens with the success factors of RISE. We need to work a lot.
Calidad, cantidad y continuidad.
Because we need to have quality, quantity, and continuity. And thirdly, on the other side, the chains are made by links, and these tend to be linear. Quite on the contrary, the networks are made by knots, then tend to be complex, even more so when their deployment takes place in different countries. Because you, all of you, are part of those nodes. And on the other side, and with this I would like to finalize, taking into account the previous, I would like to say that this Raes network will get very far and will be as successful as the commitment is big in each one of its nodes, in each one of you. Great success, everyone. Parabéns. Congratulations.
Por fazer nos deixar com essas palavras de estímulo e de perspectiva de crescimento de uma rede. Nós queremos também dizer que a FAO, a ABC e o FNDE têm sido, de fato, esse triângulo virtuoso. Eu estava rindo porque imaginei que se eu fosse falar amoroso.
This network is a virtual partnership that was launched in 2019 for the social protection and human rights in our region. Very good. Would like to thank this panel for all the rich opening remarks and commitment shown, and we will pass now to the next panel that is a little bit more technical.
And aproveitem o espaço para nos deixar, mas que daqui adiante nós vamos continuar aprendendo
to say that from now on we will talk a little bit more about school feeding programs and the importance of this network, what it can bring and what it means in and the symbolism of this image of network and the word brings. So we will now start this block with the remarks of Mr. Israel Rios, who is the senior official of the policies for FAO in the region, and who will talk about the transformation of the feeding systems in schools.
Thank you very much, Najla, and I join the particular greetings. I would like to thank you for presenting in this event. Well, the date of the last report or the state of food security and nutrition in the world, what we call SOFPE 2021, that among several other things brings us numbers that are not very favorable in terms of the progress towards the SDGs for 2030. Precisely what you are seeing on the slide 17 SDGs, and particularly objective number 2, which is zero hunger, that is about eradicating hunger before 2030. And because of the pandemic, this has a very strong delay because the figures increase, and that's what I'm going to be sharing just now. This presentation has the objective of discussing the role of the school feeding programs as part of the response in the framework of the food system, because the school feeding systems to contribute to several of the SDGs is a policy of social protection, as was well mentioned by the minister previously, that provides not only access to education opportunities for development, but also it is the place where children receive food, where they receive food on healthy eating, which from UNESCO we call soft skills for life, how to improve feeding, how to integrate other aspects beyond education, so they can be productive entities, and they can be working in this current context. So this presentation also has a strong focus on human rights, especially on food to feeding, and some of the rights for food security, such as water, land. This is a fundamental right that is acknowledged in several agendas and several commitments, and also in several constitutions in our Latin American countries. The current context, the reality, in light of the pandemic, about 811 million people all over the world presented difficulties to have access to food. And that's critical. This chart is showing both the number as well as the proportion or prevalence of people in hunger in the world. So this is the undernourishment indicator that allows us to measurement the advancement towards the SDG number 2. And as we can see here, for 2014 and 2015, the curve has been increasing sharply. And in this last period, 2019 and 2020, the increase was critical. This is a consequence of the impact of the pandemic of COVID-19. The prevalence of hunger at the moment is about 10% or more. From the forecast of the UN, this is a report signed by 5 agencies of UN, UNICEF, FIDA, WHO, and FAO, and the World Food Programme as well. So in Latin America and the Caribbean, the number of people in hunger are about 60 million people, with an increase of 2019 to 2020 in 14 million more that joined the shadow of the pandemic. And that is critical because it moves us away from the SDG 2 of eradicating hunger. The other indicator of Sophia and the world state of food security is precisely food insecurity in its category of moderate to severe. What does that mean? That anxiety, that uncertainty, that concern for not having enough money or resources to put food on the table in a severe condition, apart from anxiety, uncertainty, or worry, we add the starvation, because of course there's not enough money to put food on the table, or some member of the family needs to be without eating. The numbers are alarming. In of the pandemic, this has increased in the prevalence of food insecurity to moderate to severe, affecting 267 million people, about 40% of the population in Latin America and the Caribbean. So that is 60 million that only 1 year joined the statistics of food insecurity. For 93 million people, that is close to 14% of the population of Latin America, hunger was a reality. It was a lived experience. Now, let's think about children in schools, that for close than 10 million of these children in schools, most likely, school feeding was the only source of nutritious whole foods. And that means that during the pandemic, well, they went hungry because of the school feeding programs, as well as schools had to close. And that is very concerning. Another important topic that is addressed by this report is how costly is to manage to get healthy food. One of the analyses is the cost of healthy diets, understood as a diet that includes a diversity of food products, including fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy, fish, and includes what are food guides based on food report as healthy eating. The cost of having access to this healthy diet, it reaches in Latin America and the Caribbean to close to $4.25, being the second region in the world with the highest cost for healthy diets. This has meant that 130 million people in our region don't have enough resources to pay for the equivalent of a healthy diet. This is also translated as this population has access to unhealthy diets that are cheaper, but they're very calorie dense, high in non-healthy processed and ultra-processed foods that are characterized by having greater content of sugar, salt, and fat, and that are connected to other ways of malnutrition, such as overweight, obesity, chronic and non-transmissible ailments, and of course, COVID, because precisely people with obesity, with high BMI diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases are the ones that have the worst response towards COVID infection. That has been proven throughout the pandemic with different studies. It is very important to understand the food system as a system that is broader than the food production, but as the food environment for favoring healthy diets. So this is a very a summarized scheme of what food systems mean, made by these three elements. productive, so the change of productions and all of the subsystems that are here, transport, storage, transformation. And to that level, it is important to maintain the supply chain active for healthy foods. Next link is the food environment. And here it's very important to fight all of those obesogenic environments that favor the practices for non-healthy eating, such as the marketing of sugary drinks, for instance. It is part of what we call obesogenic environment. How can we make that at a school level to manage to get healthier food environment? So we have space for physical activity, so we can have healthy food such as fruit, vegetables, and in the food programs. So the teachers can also be models of healthy eating through food practices that also they integrate themselves into their own lives. So those transformations go far beyond only educating. We need to intervene at a school level, but also through sustainable schools. We also do that. We work with nutritional education and with the structural reforms, and we propose the training of teachers and the generation of materials so those food environments will favor the adoption of healthy eating. The food plate that our children are receiving in schools is a vehicle to educate them in healthy eating, so we can include fruit, vegetables, orchards, local products, healthy products. So we can also teach them on healthy eating, and we can contribute to healthier food environments at a level of behaviors of consumers. It is very important to make consumers, you ask all of us that are consumers at the end of the day, participate in the dynamic of choosing food. Measurements such as front label of nutritional warnings, the regulation of advertising for unhealthy food, the participation of the food industry that is unhealthy, and sugar against activities that are for education, sponsorships, promotion, advertisement in schools. All of that we should be controlling so we can empower consumers so they can take control over their food with suitable information, with suitable training, and with clear examples as what happens in the sustainable schools through the school programs. I would not like to finish without mentioning these achievements that from food feeding in this model of sustainable schools, we have managed to integrate a public policy in several countries in the region where the school food evolved from a program to a law and has a backup on the budget. It has several other mechanisms that are very important to function as a law. So this is a model of sustainable schools, has 6 elements, we all know them, but we wanted to highlight them. Some are crucial and that contribute to this transformation of food system, such as the public purchases of family farming has several benefits, such as fighting poverty when transferring public funds from school feeding to small producers and especially to family farms and the groups of women who are organized that provide food to schools. So also we contribute to the nutritional education and the cultural belonging through prepared dishes with local productions that are healthy, nutritious, and fresh. And we contribute to food education and nutritional education as well. We put evolution of the school programs towards a real policy that is transforming the life and that allows to fight hunger and malnutrition in all its forms. Some of these recommendations for making sustainable schools and the school food programs contribute to the transformation of food systems by repeating the adding of the local products and the public purchase programs, promoting the institutionalization of the school programs and the training in food education, not only in schools, but even in the training of teachers at university levels, in the adding of nutritional education in all of the aspects of the lives of the schools and public spaces, etc. So I would like to establish a monitoring and assessment system promoting healthy food environments and all of these actions that are for schools to be key stakeholders, key players in the transformation of food systems, and also having pedagogical school orchards where we connect children with the food supply and we teach them where food comes from, how many resources are required to produce this food, water, soil, etc. And we provide meaning to the importance of healthy eating in the context of sustainable development for social and economic development as well. So thank you very much, Nasla, for this opportunity of sharing these brief words on the importance that the school food programs for sustainable schools and the cooperation and the consolidation of a policy for food programs that is sustainable and healthy for Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you so much.
We thank you, my dear Israel Rios, for giving us this macro overview of the school feeding system and the importance of this school feeding system in the current days. This highlights the fact that schools are a privileged and crucial arena for the development and the transformation of the realities of these countries. I now will pass the floor to Mr. Paulo Beraldo to launch the RAES platform. So Paulo Beraldo is the communicator for the development of the FAO project. He will explain a little bit what you will find on this web platform for the network from now on. But before that, I'd like to stress two important themes. Guatemala is saluting us via the YouTube platform and saying that by 2023, all students will benefit with school meals and the school feeding program. So we have worked on sustainable schools and made some great progress. We have worked with 5 to 6 schools in Guatemala, and we want to extend it to all the schools. So this is very important. We congratulate Guatemala for this achievement. And Peru, Paraguay, Honduras, the Dominican Republic, other countries have also developed sustainable school feeding programs and made some progress. In December, we will hold an event to show all the work that has been done within these programs. So I'll now pass the floor to Paulo Beraldo, who will explain how to support the RAES platform and the network. Thank you, Najila. I salute everyone in the name of our project. It's a pleasure and an honor for me. I am the communicator for the Sustainable School Feeding Network within FAO. And so for me, it's a very special day today because the launching of this platform is a landmark, as you already heard in the different speeches that were delivered before me. And this is a network for the that delivers information to the entire network in the region. It represents the progress that has made in the matter. I'd like to salute and thank the FNDE for their support and the ABC for their unconditional support in the development of this work along the years. I will show you the site that is still under construction and that will be available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So let's start. Our platform starts with this animation. This is our visual identity. Each petal represents a pillar of the work that is developed. The orange petal is a healthy food. The red petal represents books and education, the blue school feeding programs, the yellow petal, all the linkerage that is so important for the network, and the green petal is a small family farmers that is so crucial for the meals that are delivered in the schools. So the message of the RAES sums up what we want to do. So the network is a strategy that has been leveraged by the government of Brazil together with its different partners to create solutions in the face of the challenges. Then we have the different actions that are taken. We have training courses and events that you will find them in this part of the site. Then you have a space where you can hear the voice or the words of some of the participants. You can see some of Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, and Paraguay, who explain how they perceive the course that they received. This is a dynamic space that belongs to all of you, and your participation is very important and very welcome. So now let's go to the internal part. This is the column in which you learn a bit more about who we are, about what the network is. You will have the video that you saw at the beginning of this event. Then you'll have the history and all the different landmarks along the way of the history of the RAES network. Then there is a part about the news. You'll have all the recent news of the work that's being carried out. So the top one is always the most recent piece of news.
Essa é a mesma lógica que nós
aplicamos. The same logics we apply for the events columns. So you can see our events now, and you'll see the former events that took place before, so that you can have access to all the publications, all the contents, all the events. And this platform enables you to do that. So you have then a page on the how to enroll, how to be part of the network. In the following weeks, you will receive a link of this new platform that will be available in the 3 languages. I'd like to salute in the name of the FAO team and say that this work will only work if you take part and you help us to construct and build an RAES network to strengthen the feeding systems in our region. I thank you all for your help. Thank you, Paulo. We reiterate Paulo's words. It is very important to remember that what we want is to promote a dialogue and an interaction of all players. And this is what this website, this platform enables us to do. So I'd like to thank the 3 teams at ABC, FNDE, and FAO who have already said that they will make it a very dynamic and active network, as it's a very important tool to make progress in school feeding programs in the region. Now, moving on, in the strategy of for the functioning and the implementation of the RAES network, as you know, we want to build this network and consolidate it together. And for this purpose, we need to work and join our efforts. And I will pass the floor now to Mrs. Karine Santos, who is the General Coordinator of the Feeding Program in Brazil under the FNDE, and also to Cecilia Malaguti do Prado, who is in charge of trilateral South-South cooperation within ABC. So I'd like to thank you both very much for your hard work along the years. I pass the floor to you now. Cecilia and Karina, can you hear us? Good morning, I can hear. Cecilia normally is the one who needs to speak first. Let's see whether she... Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, very. So I'll speak after you, Cecilia. Just bear me 1 second, please.
Cecília,
I think Cecilia's connection went down. Cecilia, do you need some help?
Cecília nos ouve?
Can you hear us, Cecilia? We need to be very patient because this kind of online event has this kind of hiccups. This is part of the resilience we're building in the face of the pandemic. Let's wait a little bit and maybe Karine can speak first. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon to all. We are now launching the RAES platform. I'd like to thank Najila and our friends. I must say I am quite moved to be launching this platform because it's a landmark in our project, but also in the different policies on school feeding programs. So I'd like to mention the effective social protection that a policy on school feeding brings. And we know that these programs are disseminated throughout the world today, and our work is part of this process. We have reached some positive results in health, in education, as an institution, in local development, in the local development of smallholding farmers. And we can ensure, thanks to a well-executed and implemented school feeding program, we can manage to make sure that less people evade school and start attending school regularly, thanks to the meals that are supplied. We know now that in the pandemic, it was all the more important to make sure that these children and pupils received healthy meals despite the fact that schools were closed. And also we managed to continue to develop good healthy practices by supplying balanced diets and working together with the parents and the communities. So it's an entire process, and you can see all the benefits that can be reached when you really truly implement a good school feeding program. And this work needs to be disseminated through the network. So this is why this platform is so important. And I'd like to now give you a little summary of what happened along these last months of the pandemic until 2021. We have already promoted within this network some virtual events, online events, in which we talked of important topics of how school feed and school meals were so important for the children and the families, how it was important that they continued to receive them during the pandemic, and how to do that within in the face of the pandemic. We had training courses too that were very special, also moments on which we talked about healthy food and healthy food education. This is a course that shows the methodology that is very important, and we were very pleased to be able to hold this training course, even though it was online. And during the pandemic, we also had the UNDP cooperation who got involved and who helped us deliver some equipment for the school kitchens. And because in Brazil, we are very concerned to have an infrastructure within the schools to make sure that the pupils receive these meals and proper food. And so we managed to deliver these equipments, these kits, kitchen and school kits to more than 10 countries. So that was an achievement. That was a great challenge. It was the first time we did that, and we did that during the pandemic, thanks to UNDP and FAO. So this partnership between FAO and UNDP was very fruitful and worked very well. And our intent now is to remember to always keep in mind all the lessons we learned during the pandemic, to make sure that this work continues in the post-pandemic period, thanks to this platform that will be a new tool that will improve our communication, that will make sure that all the players of the network are involved. Our intention is, and Cecilia will comment on that, I'm sure, our intention is to create work groups specialized on to work specifically on the problems we're having within the network. So it would be important to have a representative of each of the countries via the government, and also via the international organization that helps us for that, which is FAO. So we know we've already made this comment. We haven't got all the strategy ready yet. We need to define some aspects of this strategy, but this is part of the process. This is not an imposition. It's just for you to say that you need to take part, so that we really work on this strategy. Cecilia will explain a little bit more about it. FNDE is the cooperating and financing institution in the project that is in charge of the technical parts of the programs. But if we have the support of ABC in the platform, it will be a true pleasure and I'd like to reiterate my pleasure of having one more tool to work all the better within the network. I'll pass the floor now to Cecilia. Thank you, Karine. Cecilia, are you ready? Is everything fine now?
Tudo certo? Ou esperamos pouquinho mais?
Meu Deus do céu! Olha,
Cecilia, I really, I'm so sorry for what happened. I wanted to take part in the best way possible, but I've said that a lot that I was going to say must have been said by Karine and Mr. Rui Pereira, talking about all our work that has been done along the years. We are all committed in the implementation and the consolidation of the network. The representative of FAO, Mr. Zavala, the director of FNDE, have also committed and reiterated their commitment to this work and the network. And all of us now need to define the strategy to know how we will organize and structure the network to make sure to consolidate it. Karine said that this, I'm sure she said that this will be crucial for the consolidation of the network, so as to make sure that all the results we have achieved are known, disseminated, and that will be replicated all the more along the years, and will show the organization of all the countries in the region in sustainable school feeding. So we will always be available to work on this process. I wish you all a good day or evening. Before wrapping up, I'd like to thank once again Karine Santos and Nigela Veloso for all the work that was carried out in the face of all the challenges we had. I'd like to thank you for this partnership. All the organization this entails for the success of the project as a whole. So thank you to all of you, and good evening, good afternoon to all. Don't worry, Cecilia, we are attending the need of this period we're going through. Everyone is giving their best. Don't worry. Your opening speech were perfect. And it is true that it's a very important moment for us, this launching of the platform. And I'd like to talk now of some of the words that mark this event and were very significant because they show the commitment, they show the mission we want to have and what we want to do. So Mr. Rui Pereira talked about said that school feeding programs are structuring programs and challenge facing programs, and that bring in a concrete manner solutions, especially during the pandemic and now the post-pandemic period. I'd like to reiterate the words he said as to the fact that we maybe will go back to work in person and not only remotely. This is very important for the management within the ministries, so that we reiterate our perspective, our outlook of the as to the actions that need to take place. As Miss Carla Hanania said, the Ministry of Education of El Salvador, because the situation is alarming and sometimes irreversible. So it is important to remember that those school feeding programs are crucial for the development of these children, and with the help of the nutritionists, the members of the school feeding councils, the members of social society, the private sector that is already involved in many countries, of the parents, is very important to remind everyone that we already work in a network and that this platform will just be a tool to help us in our work. And the mention of Paulo Freire by Mr. Zavala, the representative of PAU, was very important also, because it shows that we can reorganize ourselves within the education for all. And also taking on the words of Mr. Israel Rios, we need to work on the quantity and the quality of the food that we provide to our pupils, to work on the infrastructure of the schools, to be able to ensure this right to food and proper food, and also the importance of small farmers in the process. It's very important to remember that we are all players in this network and that our role is important, and the formalization of this platform is important to show and to find the answers that have been given in the face of the challenges of the different countries, so that we can see all the different types of challenges and solution brought, and we can see the role of each country and the commitment of these countries and so that this commitment is made all the more visible through the platform. All we are building now, as Paulo said, will be all the more concrete next year when we actually launch the website. It will be www.raederaes.org. You will have it in English also. Inside, the contents will be available in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And this platform will therefore be used on a daily basis, hopefully from the year to come on. And to finalize, I did a bit of homework and I asked some friends. It was not a big survey, it's not a scientific survey. I just asked some friends, when you hear the word network, what comes to your mind? And I'll show you what they answered. It's very interesting. Can you see my screen? Yes or no?
Conseguem ver minha tela? Essas foram as respostas. Rede social.
Social network. That's one of the network, I said. What comes up to your mind? Most of my friends said social network. Some said, I see fishing nets. I see internet connections, links between people. And then some of the friends said, no, I see a network of friends, a group of friends. Some others said, my husband said, I think of an electrical network. So you can see there on the photo that each of the wires brings electricity to several houses. And then finally, some said, I think of a hammock, because the word is the same in Portuguese. Hammock and network is rede. Can you see? And this is a hammock.
Em inglês, mas ela traz essa ideia de
you can see, but there's a connection between the different threads that makes the system a lot more sustainable than pieces of thread that aren't knotted together. So, and I then asked the following: in terms of words, what words come to your mind when I say network? And that was very interesting for me. They said connection, horizontality, development, support, synergy, security, safety. intertwining, solidity, strength, force, overcoming, deepening, union, survival, aligning, interchange, helping, resistance, sharing, collaborating, resilience, strengthening, innovation, linkage, and cooperation. So I'm sure that you would come up with a lot more words, and all these bring us to the perspective that this network brings, that is progress and growth. So we will continue to work as a network to collaborate and cooperate between the three institutions, FAO, ABC, and FNDE. This is a very loving cooperation with all the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. And we will announce as soon as possible when you can enter the platform and start using the platform. And to finish, to wrap up, I would like to say that we will continue to be committed, and thank you genuinely and warm-heartedly for your contributions to this vision and the installation of this web platform. I'm not at ease to say the final word, so I'd like to pass the floor to Cecilia, who can, it would be better, I find, if Cecilia says goodbye. You will feel a lot more embraced by Brazil if Cecilia talks. Thank you, Najli. I hope to find you in the near future for the signing of the joint statement of all the countries that make up Latin America and the Caribbean. I'd like to thank you. Now, thank you, Cecilia. I'd like all of you to turn on your videos so that for us to take a photo. This YouTube link will be then shared within the network.
Não for possível, não há problema. Paulo,
please on your video so that we can take the photo to mark the event.
E eu gostaria de, para finalizar, uma salva de palmas, aplauso muito grande.
To finalize, I'd like to applause
a plataforma web da Rede Raes.
The launching of the RAES platform. And send you all my regards and all my love.